What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I've got another very important AMC update to bring all of you this evening. So what we're going to be talking about in this update is a little bit of the Ortex data on AMC, but there's a lot of really important things that we got to look at and what's kind of happened with some of the key pieces of data that we've been looking at and what's happened with that over the last weekend. Now, I know some of you guys don't really like looking at Ortex data, but what we're going to look at in this video is kind of everything that we've seen in the past prior to previous run-ups and how that data and those specific data points are starting to trend in our favor. Now, we also have to talk about Max Payne and how these different data points are looking like on a couple of the other stocks that do have a lot of this squeeze potential as well. Now, that's going to be AMC, GameStop, and Bed Bath & Beyond, the three big ones that kind of all move together. Remember, we saw GME start the big price movement last January. We saw AMC start the big moves in last June. And then more recently, after Bed Bath & Beyond's earnings report, when they announced that buyback, they were exploding in the after hours, and AMC and GameStop went with it. So these three stocks right here are kind of all linked together. So it's really important to kind of take a look at what some of these data points are saying across the board. Now, in addition to this, we also have MELVIN Capital making some pretty interesting moves that I think you guys are going to enjoy. So before we get into all of that information, if you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provide for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people who want to learn. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. And as you guys saw in the stream today, we did hit a couple of other pretty nice options trades. If you guys want to learn the strategies that we're using, make sure you click on the free Discord link down below. It's the Discord with me, Review Dork, and TMI with the 1348 strategy. Honestly, I don't see anybody else in any Discord right now really generating the kind of gains and the results that the people in our Discord are having. So make sure you guys go check that out if you are interested. The free chat is going to tell you everything you have to know. And if you do want to apply for premium and really get in there, then you can do so as well. Now, getting into AMC right here. So it was up about 6.64% today. Very, very strong day. We came off a green day Friday, another green Monday. Hopefully we can get another green day tomorrow. The S&P really is starting to trend to the upside after really falling into the low 420 range. And like I've been saying a lot in the past, we need the market to kind of relax a little bit, start trending to the upside to kind of give AMC and GameStop some breathing room in order to trend up to the upside. Now, coming over to Max Payne over here, well, remember, let's just switch this to AMC. I don't know why this brings up Amcor all the time, but when we switch to AMC right here, going into this week, the Max Payne is $15 a share. Remember, we like to talk about the range of Max Payne because if you're selling a bunch of calls and puts as a market maker, it's entirely possible that through the sale of all of those calls and puts, you can maintain that delta neutral or directionally neutral status just on based off of your essential market making activities. But when you break outside that little range where you can no longer sell enough calls to balance out the delta increases on the puts or sell enough puts to balance out the delta increases on the calls, that's when delta hedging starts to occur. So it would obviously benefit us to have AMC above Max Payne by a significant amount. Now, there's not any crazy amount of open interest on the option chain going into this week. As we can see right here, there is a decent amount of open interest at the 15. So great job, everybody. We're seeing everybody starting to really kind of get the idea of how options are really affecting price and that the deep out of the money contracts, although they may benefit you if on the off chance that we do see that explosive move within the time period before your options contracts expire, the likelihood of that happening is always relatively low when you think about the probability of these deep out of the money options running into the money. And we do see a greater effect on the price action with these at the money, in the money calls. Now, that's not financial advice at all. You can still do whatever you want with your money. If you want to YOLO on these $60 strike weeklies down here, you can do whatever you want. Now, let's get into some of this important data that we're looking at with AMC. So when we're looking at some of the data here, well, there's an interesting data point that kind of jumped out at me this morning. Utilization 7 days ago was 69.78%, and randomly today, it jumped all the way up to 80%. Now, we do need to get a decent understanding of what this is because I think some people are still confused on this. So total on loan quality, basically total shares on loan divided by the total gross inventory quality, meaning the total amount of shares that institutions or prime brokers are willing to lend out on any given security, and that gives you that utilization percentage. So there are two ways to increase utilization. The first way is increase this numerator right here, that total on loan quality or shares on loan. So more shares going out on loan and being sold short into the open market, which is going to push the price down, jack up the short interest. And the second way is for these institutions that are lending shares. Let's just say, for example, it's BlackRock and they are buying AMC on margin and they are saying, hey, we are willing to loan this amount of shares. Now, recently, it hasn't really looked like those shares have actually been going out on loan because as we can see by this chart right here, the cost to borrow has been slowly stepping down over the last couple of months. Now, what that means is that there's no scarcity in the securities lending market. More recently, though, we have seen a little inflection point, and we saw the average cost to borrow today step up to 1.7%, and the max cost to borrow 3.14%. Here's why this is important. Every single time we've seen a big move, we've seen utilization come up and cost to borrow also come up as well. So these are kind of precursor data point moves in order to have a big price run up. Here's why. So let's say you are short a certain amount of shares and you take your shares out at an initial 1% cost to borrow. Now, what happens when that cost on a yearly basis shoots up to 5% because it is a variable rate? Well, you're not really going to want to hold that position for that long of an amount of time. What if it goes to 10%, 15% that you have to pay? That is not something that these shorts really want to deal with. Recently, though, they've been able to push the price down of AMC, continually have the cost to borrow go down, and now we've seen that start to change. So kind of the fun time for these shorts right here on this technical move down on AMC seems to be wrapping up. If we start to see the utilization continually climb, the cost to borrow start to go up, it makes even less sense for these shorts to stay in their position. Now let's take a look at GME, because if you guys have been paying attention to any of my previous videos, GME has kind of already started to do this a couple of weeks ago. Right now on GME, we're seeing a utilization at 86.26%, and their average cost to borrow is stepping up all the way up to the average today, 4.43%. We can see here the utilization, this orange line, skyrocketing. This purple line here is starting to come up. Those are very, very good signs that we are seeing the pressure getting put on these shorts. Now, think about this again, like the example I was talking about before. When these shorts were shorting these stocks from way higher to way lower, they have a pretty significant gain on their position. If the stocks aren't really going to get pushed down anymore, this increase in the cost to borrow is just going to eat into any gains that they have right now. Now, let's take a look at Bed Bath & Beyond too, because this is kind of the other stock that does really move with AMC and GME on a day-to-day basis. Now, yes, there's always going to be some disjoints, and they are going to move differently sometimes, but overall, when big moves happen, they typically all move together. So Bed Bath & Beyond right here, we're seeing the same thing. Utilization coming up, cost to borrow also climbing as well. So these are pretty interesting data points that we really need to keep a lookout for, because if these keep trending in the right direction, this is going to really signify to us that, yes, the shorts are getting the pressure put on them right now. They're going to be paying more interest to whoever they are taking these loans out from, either a Goldman Sachs, a JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, any one of these institutions that is a big prime broker. Now, the last thing that I kind of want to touch on in this video is what Melvin Capital has been doing. We know that they were having a terrible 2021. They started off 2022 on the wrong foot. They sold about $4 billion in securities. We were all looking at that filing that came out at the end of December, and nobody really knew why they did that. Now, we might have an explanation as to why they sold that amount of securities. A lot of people were thinking they were getting margin called. It's possible, but they are also looking to start a new long-only fund. Melvin Capital to raise money for a new long-only fund. Move follows a year in which the firm's main fund that was shorting a lot of stocks lost 39%. Melvin ensnared in Reddit-fueled push to bid up stocks. So Melvin Capital is kind of switching to the bullish side. They are going long only now in this specific fund, which kind of makes a lot of sense. We've seen a lot of basically famous short selling firms, specifically Citron, come out and say that they were going to enact some of these investment strategies too, that shorting in this given marketplace doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. what is fundamentally fairly valued right now? A lot of people like to bring up the fundamentals argument for AMC and GME. We have stocks trading for well above their fundamental value, and then you have people like Warren Buffett, a fundamental investor, holding $150 billion of cash, which he can't really do anything else than to just buy back shares of Berkshire Hathaway. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to short things in this environment, and I've said this a lot in the past in my live streams, that these institutions, these hedge funds, are still operating on kind of an outdated way to really value stocks in any kind of investment strategy surrounding that. They think that looking at PE ratios, PEG ratios, any type of these very, very simple financial ratios that a sophomore or freshman finance major could calculate and look at is going to be the secret to evaluating stocks. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it doesn't really give them any type of edge in the marketplace, and that's why we see companies like MELVIN Capital taking very significant losses. So that is really going to wrap up this update on AMC. If you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provided for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting information out to as many people who want to learn. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. So I hope you guys are having a great evening, and I'll see you guys in the next one.